James 4 and 8 says, "Come near to God, and he will come near to you." The truth is that you are as close to God as you choose to be. Like any friendships, you must work at developing your friendship with God. It takes desire, it takes time and energy. If you want a deeper and more intimate connection with God, you must learn to honestly share your feelings with God. Trust God. And when God asks you to do something, learn to care about what God cares about and desire his friendship more than anything else. I must choose to be honest with God. That must be your posture. Choose to be honest with God. The first building block of a deeper friendship with God is complete honesty about your faults and your feelings. God doesn't expect you to be perfect, but God does expect you to be completely honest. In the Bible, the friends of God were honest about their feelings, often complaining, second guessing, accusing, and arguing with their Creator. God allowed Abraham to question and to challenge him over the destruction of the city of Sodom. God also listened patiently to David's many accusations of unfairness, betrayal, and abandonment. God did not slay Jeremiah when he claimed that God had tricked him. Job was allowed to vent his bitterness during his ordeal, and in the end, God defended Job for being honest. Think about that. And then God turned around and rebuked Job's friends for not being authentic. Develop your friendship with God. Genuine friendship is built on disclosure. What may appear as audacity, God views as authenticity. Developing your friendship with God. God listens to the passionate words of his friends. To be God's friend, you must be honest with God, sharing your true feelings, not what you think you ought to feel or say. It is likely that you need to confess some hidden anger and resentment that you have towards God. For certain areas of your life where you have felt cheated, be honest about areas of your life that not only that you felt you've been cheated or that you were even disappointed in. Until we mature enough to understand that God uses everything for good in our lives, we harbor resentment toward God over our parents, our background, unanswered prayers, past hurts, and other things we would change if we were God. Developing your friendship with God. Bitterness is the greatest barrier to friendship with God. Why would I want to be God's friend if God allowed this to happen? Why would I want to be God's friend if God allowed that to happen? So many people in the Bible told God exactly how they felt. Developing your friendship with God. To instruct us in candid honesty, God gave us the book of Psalms, a worship manual full of ranting, full of raving, doubts, fears, resentment, and deep passions combined with thanksgiving, praise, and statements of faith. Every possible emotion is cataloged in the Psalms. Developing your friendship with God. It's encouraging to know that all of God's closest friends, Moses, Abraham, Job, and others, had bouts with doubts. They had situations in their mind. There's things that were going on that caused them to doubt. But expressing doubt is sometimes the first step towards the next level of intimacy with God. I must choose to obey God in faith. That's the statement that we need to make today in developing our friendship with God. I must choose to obey God in faith. Every time you trust God's wisdom and do whatever God says, even when you don't understand it, you deepen your friendship with God. Jesus made it clear that obedience is a condition of intimacy with God. He said, "You are my friends if you do what I command." We are friends of God, but we are not God's equal. God is our loving leader and we follow him. We obey God not out of duty or fear or compulsion, but because we love him and trust that God knows what is best for us. We obey out of love, and our obedience brings great joy. Developing your friendship with God. Jesus expects us to do only what he did with the Father. His relationship with his Father is the model for our relationship with the Father. Jesus did whatever the Father asked him to do out of love. God treasures simple acts of obedience more than our prayers, praise, or offerings. Developing your friendship with God. I must choose to value what God values. That should be your proclamation today. I must choose to value what God values. The more you become God's friend, the more you will care about the things he cares about. Grieve over the things that he grieves over and rejoice over the things that bring pleasure to him. Paul is the best example of this. God's agenda was his agenda, and God's passion was his passion. What does God care about the most? The redemption of his people. He wants all his children found, all of his lost children found. That's the whole reason Jesus came to the earth, developing our friendship with God. I must desire friendship with God more than anything else. That should be your declaration today. I must desire friendship with God over anything else, more than anything else. David passionately, he passionately wanted to know God above all else. He used words like longing, yearning, thirsting, hungry. He craved God. Is that your posture today? Do you crave God? Do you want to be friends with God? Today, James 4:8 says, come near to God and he will come near to you. God wants to be your friend. So today, be intentional about developing your friendship with God. Choose to value what God values. Choose to care about what God cares about. Choose to be honest with God about your feelings, your doubts, your resentments, your bitterness. Choose today. You have a loving God that will hear you and not treat you any differently. God wants to know your concerns. God wants to hear about you and your day-to-day interactions with people. Are you serious about developing your friendship with God? Do you want a friendship with God? Think about that today and be blessed.